Day 26. Here's a headline from thehill.com. Zelensky says that Mariupol is being reduced to ashes. Mariupol is being reduced to ashes. Hey! Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said on Friday that the city of Mariupol is being reduced to ashes by Russian airstrikes. But it will survive. He urged Ukrainian citizens in his recorded video address to do everything you can to defend our country and to save our people. If you're in a position to fight, to do something, he said, do it. Reminds me of something that I found in this book here. You got Thaddeus Stevens. You got not just Thaddeus Stevens, you got motherfucking James Garfield. All these motherfucking revolutionaries, these American revolutionaries to fight the Civil War. Thaddeus Stevens, the grim-visaged old gladiator who led the radical Republicans in the House of Representatives, pulled no punches in this regard. We must treat this war as a radical revolution, he declared, and free every slave, slay every traitor, burn every rebel mansion. If these things be necessary to preserve the nation, then so be it. The question is, they go back and forth, is this revolutionary? Was the Civil War a revolution? Fucking A, you freed the slaves, you changed the whole goddamn game. It wasn't as revolutionary as it could have been because he's trying to preserve the Union, preserve the Republic, and then we can have a discussion, is the Union worth preserving, or is the Republic worth preserving? I think the Republic is worth preserving. But if goddamn California or motherfucking Mississippi, anytime you want to secede Mississippi, go right the fuck ahead. Go right the fuck on ahead. Go right the fuck on ahead, you motherfuckers. So anyways, Zelensky also urged Ukrainian citizens in his recorded address, you can do everything, if you put your mind to, now he said, do everything you can defend our country to save our people. We're seeing more and more heroes, once ordinary Ukrainians and now true fighters. All right, so I want to talk about the mother and the father cities. So real quick, you got the mother cities, you got fucking Putin. Putin is sitting there saying that the mother cities is Kiev. Kiev is the mother city of all the Russians. The Rus, the ancient Rus, they all came out of Kiev, right? With the Kievan Rus, the important, very Kievan Rus. That's where all the Russians came from. The Ukrainians are Cimmerians. The Ukrainians are the Scythians. The Ukrainians are the Scoloti. The Ukrainians are the Gravettians and the Drevlians. Those are the ancient Ukrainians. The Eastern Slavs, these are the Ukrainians. The Drevlians, the Pollyannas, the Vyatichis, the Vyatichis, the Vyatichis, the Pollyannas, the Pochans. The Pochans are so fucking Pochans. The Croatians and the Kriviches. So Pollyannas and the Pochans and the Vyatichis and the Drevlians. The Croatians, the Kriviches, Eastern Slavs. The Ukrainians are the Eastern Slavs. So when Putin wants to say that the Kievan Rus is the ancient Russians, no, if the people who were in Kiev was the Pollyannas, the people who were in Kiev were the Pochans and the Drevlians and the Kriviches. The people who are not Ukrainians, well, that would be the Varangians. That would be the Varyags, the Gotlanders, the Swedish Vikings, the Kievan Rus. The Kievan Rus are the foreign occupiers. They want to take over Ukraine. They pretended to be of and by the population. After, I guess, 400 years, maybe the foreign occupiers and the Slavs eventually became one and the same. And that the great question, the ancient Rus, are they Slavic? Or are they Swedish Viking? It's not to be or not to be. It's, or the ancient Russians, Eastern Slavic or Norse. So, if Kiev is the mother, of all the ancient Russians, then who's the father? Who's the father of all the ancient Russians? If Kiev is the mother, because they're going to find Kiev you're going to find Ladoga and Novgorod. Here's 5 original Russian towns. So here's, 6 possible candidates. Novgorod, are you the father? Who is the father of the goddamn Russians? Beloozero? Beloozero? These are cities. Murom, Novgorod, Polotsk, Rostov, Ladoga? Is it Abe Ladoga? Is it Novgorod? Is it Beloozero? Is it Murom? Is it Polotsk, Rostov? Murom. Murom is the father of the Russians. I went ahead and settled that debate. Where do all the Russians come from? They come out of Murom. What is Murom? Well, it's a goddamn city. It's a goddamn city. It's in, the Vladimir Oblast today, which just means it's on the... You got big-ass fucking Russia, right? It's on the east side where every fucking thing is. But it's not in the total north. It's not in the total south. It's kind of situated right in the middle. Murom. The primary chronicle said that it was established in 862 AD, which is the same date that the Ladoga, which Novgorod, and did you know the Slovenes are from the Novgorod Slavs? So I forgot to mention them. The Eastern Slavs, the Novgorod Slavs, the Ilmen Slavs are the Slovenes. So, they were being oppressed up there in the north too. So the Slovenes, they could say, well, we were being oppressed by the Russians, and then we became the Russians. Or they could say, we care about Slovenia, we care about our Slovene culture. Now we're fucking Slovenian. We're not goddamn Russians. But if they've been ruled by the Russians for such a long time, after 500 years, you're kind of the fucking Russians, aren't you? So that's the whole, problem with the Kievan Rus is the reign was 400 years. And that's another thing. The great Kievan Rus. The Byzantine Empire lasted for 1,000 years. You had, some fucking, minor-ass empires that lasted 400 years. That ain't shit. But that's longer than America's been in existence and Germany's been in existence. So 400 years is something. But in world history, the Byzantine Empire, the Kievan Rus was right next to the Byzantine Empire. And they're going to get conquered by the Mongolian Empire. And then they're going to have to pay tribute to the Mongolians. So the fucking ancient Russians are going to get their asses kicked. They're going to get conquered. And they're going to, bow down to the Mongolian occupiers. So the Kievan Rus ain't shit. The Kievan Rus ain't shit. Compared to the Byzantines, they had an empire that lasted for 1,000 years. The Mongolians, they had a bigger empire. I'm not for sure how long the Mongolian Empire lasted for. But the Varangians, or the Varyags, the Gotlanders, the Swedish, Norwegian, Danish, the Vikings, the Norsemen, the believers in Thor and Samhein, these are not Ukrainians. The Ukrainians, I would say, are like the Slovenes. I don't know what the Slovenians... I don't know. I mean, you have to ask people that live there. And the only Slovenian that I know is Barbara. And I don't know if she gives a shit at all about any of this stuff. So... But the Ukrainians are the Eastern Slavs. One more time. Drevlians, Pollyannas, Vyatichis, Pochans, Croatians, and the Kriviches. Those are the ancient Ukrainians. The ancient Ukrainians, the Cimmerians, Scythians, Scoloti, Gravettians. Those are the ancient Ukrainians. So, what are we talking about? We're going to make Ukraine great again? We're talking about back in Rome? Back in the Byzantine? Back in the Greek? Back in the Mongolian era? Which? We're going to make Ukraine great again. Back in the Kievan Rus era. And the Kievan Rus, they talk about that as being the golden era. The Kievan Rus wasn't the golden era. The Kievan Rus, there was infighting. Not only did the Mongolians conquer them, but there's a shit ton of infighting. And it's a strict hierarchical structure. So it only benefited, basically the fucking princes and shit. Whatever goddamn schools and hospitals and churches they were able to, build. But I bet you there's only a couple of them. So the golden age of the ancient Russians, they, basically squandered and plundered and what the fuck? It's not and then they all started fighting amongst each other, and then they, deteriorated, went down. After the Mongolian Empire had conquered them, they existed. They still existed on paper for like 200 years, but because they all had to pay tribute, they all would fight amongst each other over that shit. And then eventually, because they didn't have their shit together, they didn't have democracy, they didn't have a constitution. What the fuck? We're gonna fight Kievan Rus sounds cool in English. I don't know what it fucking sounds like in goddamn, Russian or Ukrainian. Ukrainian. I feel like every time we say Putin or Russian, we gotta say Zelensky and Ukrainian 10 times. So Ukrainian. We're all Ukrainian. Jesus Ukrainian, huh? Jesus Ukrainian. So anyways, Murom is the father of the Russians. Murom is a city that has a population today of 122,000. It lies along the Oka River. It's one of the oldest Russian towns. The primary chronicle mentions it in 862, along with the Ladoga and the Novgorod and, all the rest. So, if Keev is the mother, the father is Murom. The father is Murom. So, Miromets. It's an East Slavic epic hero, Miromets. But, you know how it is. It's just, Murom is a city marked the easternmost settlement of the East Slavs in the land of the Finnic Muromians. Primary chronicle mentions him 862 AD, therefore it's one of the oldest cities in Russia. 900 AD, it's an important trading post from Volga, Bulgaria to the Baltic Sea. More coming up.